The rain came down in sheets that morning, the kind that turns the whole world grey and makes the streetlights look like they're crying. Inside the little roadside diner on Highway 41, only one customer sat at the counter. Rowan Hale, 34 years old, single dad, hands rough from night shifts at the warehouse. In front of him was a plate he'd been dreaming about for weeks. 2 eggs over easy, hash browns crisp on the edges, and a bacon sandwich on thick Texas toast. $7.49. That was every spare penny he had left until payday. He lifted the sandwich, mouth watering, when the bell above the door jingled weakly. A woman stumbled in, soaked to the bone, shaking like a leaf in the wind. Her dark hair stuck to her pale cheeks. Her clothes were torn. Her eyes looked like someone who had already said goodbye to hope a long time ago. She didn't ask for anything. She just stood there dripping on the checkered floor and whispered, almost too soft to hear, "Please, can someone help me?" The waitress froze. A trucker in the corner looked away. Rowan felt something tug hard inside his chest. He thought of his little girl, Mia, waiting at school. The way she once told him, "Daddy, sharing your sunshine is the best magic there is." He didn't think twice. He stood up, walked over, and gently placed the warm plate in the stranger's trembling hands. "Here," he said quietly. "You need this more than I do." She stared at the food like she couldn't believe it was real. Then she sat down right there on the floor, back against the wall, and ate like it was the first meal she'd had in days. Tears rolled down her face and mixed with the raindrops. Rowan slid into the booth across from her, watching, making sure she was okay. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a breath. "My name is Ara." That was all she gave. No last name, no story, just Ara. Rowan didn't push. He knew what silence felt like after the world had broken you. He'd lived in that silence ever since. Mia's mom passed and left him drowning in bills and grief. So he just sat with her while the storm outside softened to a whisper. He gave her his old denim jacket, even though it left him cold. He gave her the last $4 in his pocket for coffee later, even though it meant he'd be eating instant noodles again tonight. When she stood to leave, she looked back once, eyes shining with something he couldn't name, and then she disappeared into the grey morning. Rowan thought that was the end of it, a small moment of kindness on a rainy day. He went back to his life, long shifts, tight budgets, bedtime stories with Mia under a leaky roof. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived. Thick cream envelope, gold embossed lettering, the kind of letter that doesn't show up at broken mailboxes by accident. Inside was a single line that made his heart stop. "Mr. Rowan Hale, please attend the offices of Vincent and Alder regarding a personal matter concerning Miss Aravin." He read it 10 times. Lawyers, millions of terrible reasons flashed through his mind. Lawsuits, police, something he'd done wrong. But something stronger than fear pulled him onto the bus the next morning. He needed to know she was safe. The law firm was all glass and marble, a world he'd only seen in movies. Rowan walked in, wearing the same worn boots and faded flannel he'd had for years. They led him to a quiet conference room that overlooked the city. 2 attorneys waited with a thick folder. "Mr. Hale," the older one began gently, "Miss Aravin is safe, thanks in very large part to you." Rowan's knees almost gave out with relief. "But why am I here?" The younger attorney slid a photograph across the table. It showed Ara, smiling, radiant, standing in front of a famous art gallery in New York. "Nothing like the broken woman from the diner. Miss Vin is an internationally celebrated photographer," they explained, "and the only heir to a family trust worth more than most people see in 10 lifetimes. But she suffered severe trauma after someone close to her tried to destroy everything she'd built. She ran, she refused bodyguards, refused money. She wanted to disappear completely. For weeks, she lived on the streets, convinced kindness no longer existed." Rowan's throat tightened. The attorney continued, voice soft. "She told us that on the worst day of her life, when she had nothing left, not even hope, a stranger gave her his only meal. He treated her like a person, not a problem. She said, and I quote, 'He gave me a sandwich when I felt like a ghost. So I'm giving him back his future.'" They opened the folder. Inside were documents, establishing a trust in Rowan and Mia's names, enough to cover a safe home. All of Mia's school, childcare, and 3 full years of living expenses so Rowan could finally train for the drafting career he'd always dreamed of but could never afford. Rowan just stared, tears slipping down his cheeks. I didn't do anything special, he whispered. The older attorney smiled. You reminded a dying soul that humanity is still good. Sometimes that's the rarest gift of all. He walked out of that building, clutching the folder like it might vanish. The sun was shining for the first time in weeks, and for the first time in years, Rowan didn't feel the weight of tomorrow crushing him. Months later, Rowan and Mia moved into a little apartment where the heat always worked, and the windows didn't rattle. Mia started dance classes. Rowan began his drafting program with straight A's and a heart full of fire. Every so often he'd drive back to that same diner, sit by the same window and order 2 coffees, just in case. He never saw Ara again, but he didn't need to. He felt her gratitude every single day, in Mia's laughter, in the roof over their heads, in the quiet peace of knowing tomorrow would be okay. Because one rainy morning, he shared $7.49 worth of breakfast, and the universe paid it forward in ways he never could have imagined. If this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, please hit that like button. Leave a comment telling me the last time you shared your sandwich, and share this video with someone who needs to. Remember that kindness always comes back around. Because sometimes the smallest act of compassion doesn't just save one life. It saves 2. Thank you for watching, beautiful soul. I'll see you in the next story.